This is the AAFCA discussion on Robin Roberts Presents Mahalia, and I'm your host, John Murray. Welcome to our chat, Tony nominee Danielle Brooks, who plays Mahalia, and Tony Award winner Kenny Leon, who directs the film. Thank you both for joining us. How you doing?
Wonderful. So glad to talk to you, John. It's so good to see Kenny.
Good to be here. Love you, Danielle Brooks. You're the best actress on the planet. I don't care what anybody says. That's the truth. Some actors stand next to truth or beside truth, but you always stand in truth. So thank you. Thank you.
And Kenny, before I get into Mahalia, I want to echo that because I saw you on Broadway in the revival of The Color Purple, Danielle, and you were so good that you made Miss Sophia at times seem sexier than Suge Avery. And I said, now, somebody's embodying the role when Miss Sophia was supposed to be, a little frumpy, a little hard, but she was so daggone sexy. I said, that's acting right there. That's acting.
Because Sophia had about 5 kids now. She ain't get there just by pushing, she did a little something.
Listen, she didn't get all them men by putting them in a headlock. She was finessing them a little,
That part.
Well, let's talk about the iconic role of Mahalia Jackson. Why was this an important story to tell, and how did each of you become attached to this project?
You want to start, Kenny? You want me to start?
You can start.
Okay. Well, how I came about, I definitely feel like this was something that was manifested and definitely a God thing for sure. I had came to Kenny, we worked together on Much Ado About Nothing for the public, and I had told him, I was like, I want to play Mahalia Jackson. And he was like, I want to direct Mahalia Jackson. So he started talking to his people. And before you know it, a year later, during the pandemic, I'm walking in South Carolina with my daughter. And he calls me and he's like, Danny, I got the script. I got it greenlit. You want to come do it? And I was like, yeah, because it's you. And, so that's how that came about for us to get together and work together once again.
And for me, well, first of all, I mean, I've said earlier, she's my favorite actor in the country, and that's no BS. But I had a show running on Broadway, a soldier's play, and when Broadway shut down March 12th, and our show closed March 13th, I didn't know what I was going to do, because for the last 25 years. I've been on the road 80% of the time. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I realized, whoa, I really realized how much I had been gone. And so now I'm going back to Atlanta, where I have family. So I'm back home with my woman and trying to figure out what to do next. But I was a little nervous. So when I'm nervous, I sort of go back to my past. And I was like, okay. I don't know what this COVID-19 thing is. I don't know when Broadway will come back, when I'll get to do another film or story. So I said, okay, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm just gonna put on some Mahalia Jackson music, because I grew up Black, male, Southern. And my mom was a gospel singer. And we went to church 8 days a week. And so during this time, I woke up that next morning, and I put on 2 hours of Mahalia Jackson. Then I would pray for an hour, which was longer than I've ever prayed at any time. And then I would meditate for an hour, which I didn't understand meditation. I had just slowly got into it. And then I would read plays and books that I hadn't had the opportunity to read since I've been traveling so much. And then I got on my new Peloton bike. So that routine, that's what I did every day for 7 weeks. To get my confidence up. And in the 7th week, Tanya Lopez from Lifetime and Robin Roberts from GMA called to offer me the Mahalia Jackson story that was already greenlit, that had to be done by Easter Sunday. So that means we had to start shooting in the fall. And I was like, okay, did you know that I've been waking up listening to Mahalia Jackson? No, we didn't. And I just looked up to God. I said, this is divine inspiration. I have to do it. I called my mom. She says, I don't care what else other jobs you got. you gonna do Mahalia Jackson story. And the next person I called was Danielle Brooks, because I knew that was the only way to tell the story that was in my head. And I'm so glad that she said yes. And from day one, everything about this project sounds corny to some people, but everything about this project has been anointed. You know, like, you know, for me to be available, for Danielle to be available, for us to shoot it in Canada when they said you can't have any, you know, we got a limit on how many American actors can get over here in quarantine and tell our story. So we ended up with Olivia Washington and Rob Demery, like 5 people. So everything about it, you know, including, you know, after Danielle said, well, you know, we can't find this other role, so you need to play the teacher, the vocal teacher. I was like, what? So I was like, if my lead actress asked me to do that, I'm going to do it. So it ended up, you know, everything about it has been anointed. And I'm hoping that the viewers will feel the same, because what we were trying to do was we were trying to look through the lens of 2020, when all of us in the country are suffering and we don't know what's going to happen. And we're like, oh, this is this COVID-19 thing. What is this? And then you look at the Mahalia Jackson story, and you have a woman who lived through the first pandemic in 1918. And she reminds us, hey, you're not the only group of people that had masks on. You know,
yeah, I love that that line is mentioned in the movie when she talked about the era, the big flu that happened during that time. Yeah. It's amazing to hear that parallel in this movie and our modern times, you know?
Right, and that was the point. We wanted to make it relate to people now. We didn't want to tell a story about just a woman with a beautiful voice and she had no ups and downs. We wanted to tell a story about a woman who got knocked down 10 times and got up 11. And I think Danielle did that. I mean, she was divorced, you know, a couple of times. She was looking for love. She, you know, it wasn't easy, but she showed you the power of faith. And I'm hoping that viewers would see it today and then get stronger and more solid in their faith and their purpose in life. And everybody will look at themselves and say, okay, I saw that movie on Lifetime, and now I'm going to find out my purpose and passion in life, and I'm going to contribute to the world in a bigger, greater way.
You know, Kenny, I like that you all dealt with how Mahalia helped miracles manifest through God in this movie. And it sounded like the manifestation of this project in your life was Mahalia still working miracles. And I love that. Danielle, what was it like for you researching and finding assets to really help you to dive into the script and unpack who Mahalia was?
Well, it's good you saying, Harriet, we got so many biopics happening right now. It's not even funny, right? Yeah. Which is great, because it's a moment we're getting to celebrate all of these Black women that left a mark in America, and especially with music, you know? And so I'm just glad to be in the number with that. As far as research, it's crazy, because a part of the manifestation is I got the idea when I was working in Color Purple. Jennifer Hudson has said to me, you sound like Mahalia Jackson. And then Jennifer Holliday said the same thing when she took over for Hudson. And so the bug was planted in my ear. So since that moment in 2015, I had been researching Mahalia Jackson for a minute. Wow. To see, like, is this really the person I should play? Does it go beyond just looking like her or sounding like her? And it was a lot of parallels. Just like Kenny said, he grew up in church 8 days a week. I did too. My mother's a minister. My dad's a deacon. I grew up in the South. She grew up in New Orleans. It was just a lot of parallels there. And so when it came to playing her, it was very important for me to stay true to who she was. So I was specific on, like, we're not wearing earrings that much. I didn't find many pictures of her wearing earrings, to her wearing tights, because she was a woman of faith. She gonna make sure her skirts are past her knees. There was details, and I'm not wearing no fake lashes. Like, we gonna really do this. And so there was a lot of looking at photographs, because I feel like they tell 100 stories. And then Todd Kreidler, our writer, he sent some good radio to listen to of her with Studs Terkles. So I listened to clips of her on the radio and read books that were like as big as a Bible, no pun intended, but then, you know, hey, there you go. Just big as a Bible, talking about her life. So yeah, just kept consuming. And YouTube was amazing too, because you get to watch these live performances and see exactly how she moved every ounce of her body. So that's how a lot of the research came about.
YouTube has to be a dream for an actor researching a role now these days. It's an amazing asset. You know, when we talk about mainstream gospel artists today, we talk about the likes of Yolanda Adams and Kirk Franklin, the Winans and the Clark sisters, but Mahalia Jackson mainstreamed gospel music, and they've all benefited from the foundation that she set. Why do you think Mahalia's gospel extended far beyond the four walls of the church, and in many cases, those outdoor tents? How did she get this gospel to resonate beyond the Black church?
I heard someone say before that after prayer, music is the most powerful thing in the world. And I truly believe that, because it's something that transcends. You can hear, and that will just move you. And it ain't got no words to it. Like music, it will take you somewhere and change your behavior in an instant. And so I feel like with everything that Black people were going through at that time, she was the voice for us, for our grandparents, for our mothers and fathers. And so not only that, but because she was singing, it was so transcendent that it hit the white folks too. You know what I mean? And so she was able to break barriers. And what I love about her is the fact that she stayed true to who she was. She said, you know what, I'm not singing jazz, I'm not singing blues, I'm going to sing gospel. And she still was able to break those barriers by singing at Carnegie Hall several times, by singing in the White House, by having her own radio show, Mahalia Jackson Show, which later got canceled. But there was a plethora of things that she was able to accomplish in the 40s and 50s and 60s that have left room for Mary and Corinne and Leandria, and the list goes on,
This next question is for both of you all. Mahalia had an ally in Studs Terkel who took a chance on her and was an advocate after Mahalia herself had several failed attempts to really launch her career. Have one of you angels in your life that helped you break through, that took a chance on you, that you saw the trajectory of your life change because they said, no, this touched me, or I see you? Either one of you have had one of those Studs Terkels in your life?
Well, I think they're angels all around us. And, Danielle Brooks is an angel for me. You know what I mean? She's there. Samuel L. Jackson is an angel for me. It's like they're all around us if we would just notice. And in my research, about 5 years ago, I had a dream. I put a lot on dreams and stuff like that. But I remember in my dream, Dr. King and Mahalia Jackson were in the waiting room of heaven. And they were like just two of them. And they were only two people that made it to heaven. And they had to be in the waiting room because God was saying, why should I let you into heaven? So that image to me has been with me all these years. So when I look at our story, I still see that dream. And they had to still fight with God to say why they should get in. And I'm thinking like, wow, if Dr. King and Mahalia had a tough time, I'm going to have a real tough time. I don't know how I got on that, but I was just thinking about the
angels.
The angels, you know what I mean? They're around us, and like Dr. King, I'm sure helped Mahalia in her weak moments, and vice versa. And I think we just have to really realize that, we're all humans, you know what I mean? And the humans are right there. The angels are right around us. We just have to open our eyes and witness them.
Danielle?
I'm not just saying this because he's on the call, but truly Kenny Leon has been an angel for me, because working with him was the first time that I was seen as a lead. Wow. And not only a lead, but also in a Shakespeare play. I got to play a character that normally I would never be able to play. And he saw something in me and said, you can do this. And he gave me that opportunity. And then again here, this is my first big movie, and to get to play the lead and also co-executive produce, them saying, we trust you enough to give your opinion in the room. I appreciate that. I appreciate his leadership and his mentorship. And, he's so easy to work with because it's no ego in the room. There's no ego with Kenny Leon. It's all about, the best idea will win, and in collaboration. And he just values the people that he works with, not just the actors, but the crew. And so I really truly am appreciative of the relationship that we've built as artists together. And just help, me say, yeah, you are the lead. Go ahead. So I appreciate it.
You felt seen, absolutely.
Felt seen.
You're gonna make me cry. I remember, thank you for saying that, Danielle, but I remember, John, we were, right before we shot the scene of Dr. King and Mahalia sitting on the couch in the bedroom. And I didn't know, it's something amazing about the trust between a director and actors. It goes both ways. And when you got that full trust, you'll do things that you would never do. So I'm sitting in that room and there's a prop, there's a Bible on the bed. And I pick up the Bible and I have Danielle on the left and Rob Demery on the right, Dr. King and Mahalia. And I just started reading from the book of Genesis. I just read almost the entire book. And then I just put the Bible down and I said, okay, roll camera. And I trusted them to know what I meant and to deliver the truth. And I've never done anything like that before, but that shows you my faith and my trust in those actors that work with me on the Mahalia Jackson film.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. Kenny, one of the things I love that you guys were able to really convey in this project was the themes of Mahalia. Mahalia embodies so many themes. So let's deal with the theme of perfection. We know the seed was planted with her mother, and it was both a gift and a curse for Mahalia. Are either of you perfectionists? Have you had to work to overcome it? Is it a gift or a curse for you? I'd love to hear if you struggled with one of Mahalia's biggest challenges in life.
I think that's why this was such a good match, parallel, because I too am a perfectionist. And too much so sometimes. I think there was a few times Kenny was like, Danielle. He would tell me, we had this great thing that was very helpful for me. He would say, Danielle, it's 80% you and 20% God. You got to get out the way. And that helped because I very much am that. And I understand that. And I think that's what I respected about her too, was the fact that she really was saying, y'all trying to make Black people look a certain way. We sing about the blues and we talk about drugs and my man is gone and this and that, but I'm going to try to at least hold this thing together enough to continue a good image of the Black female. And so I appreciate that part about her. But the hard part was then researching the humanity part of her, the true part of her, of like getting divorced several times and having all of these health issues and just in her stubbornness and those type of things were kind of more challenging to find because she had tried to keep such a good rapport about herself.
So John, what makes it easier for people like myself and Danielle, because I do think that we are perfectionists, but when you're working with another perfectionist, it makes your job easier because you understand that and you can remind each other, oh, you're going too far now, because we're both attentive to detail, but we both understand, you know what? We want the same thing. We know that we don't want to leave anything on the floor. We want to give 100% of ourselves to the project, and we demand that from everybody on set. And when you got the director and the lead actress walking that walk, everybody else just has to walk in line. So I actually want to thank Danielle for being right there with me, because if not, I would come off as like, oh, he's crazy. He wants us to do what? He wants us to sing that song again? Oh man, he out of his mind. But I think that we sort of support and enforce the good in each other.
together, that's iron sharpening iron, Kenny. I like that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, I love the line that Mildred Falls had when she said to Mahalia, "You want perfection, but you just can't give it. God accepts our imperfections. Why can't you?" That was one of the movies I said, okay, that's one of them. Oprah says an aha moment. That was good right there, because that was one of those strong takeaways, and it really kind of embodied both of what you just said right now, for sure. One of the other themes in the movie is reconciliation. We know Mahalia had moments where she revisited past loves and musicians, even her relationship with Mildred. What do you hope the audience takes away with the message of reconciliation that is seen with Mahalia in this movie?
You know, to be honest, I haven't thought about that, John, because I've kind of been running with this idea of letting go of what I want the audience to take away, only because to me, this was our chance to just thank and give reverence to Mahalia Jackson. And so I really just left it at that. So whatever you receive, because I have no control over that. But what I do have control over is how I portray her, you know, and making sure that I give her justice. So that's kind of where I stayed focused on. So I don't know if I can answer your question.
It's all right.
I think for me, I can rephrase your question and say some of the things that I'm most proud of. So I was just talking to someone recently, talking to the great Lynn Nottage about the contributions of Lorraine Hansberry. We're trying to build a statue of Lorraine Hansberry. You know, there's not a female statue of anybody of that magnitude in New York. So we want to raise money to do that. But we started talking about Lorraine Hansberry, and they said, do you realize that when she wrote that play, you have 3 women on stage, not just saying hi and goodbye, but 3 women, you know, in deep dialogue, talking about their lives. So if I take that image and apply it to what we did with Mahalia, to see a film where we have 3 chocolate women, you know, a full journey, talking about life, going, you know, it's like, I want America to see these 3 chocolate women who are different from each other, but who have ideas and goals and their own journeys of life. And so, number 1, I want them to see that. Number 2, that whole scene when Danielle, playing Mahalia, does that the hysterectomy scene. I learned a lot about that scene as we were writing it and putting it together from Danielle. Danielle pushed me. She says, Kenny, you know, it's like a lot of Black women go through certain things with doctors, with hospitals. They go through certain things when we're talking about fibroids and hysterectomy. And we want to capture a truth there, even if no one else gets it, but that Black women get that truth. And I thought we were successful in doing that. So I see that as a love gift to Black women who have had challenges with the medical community, who've had challenges in talking about their bodies, who've had challenges feeling safe. So when it's all over, if that happens and nothing else happens, I'm good.
That's good. That's good. You know, one of the other themes in the project was self-esteem. Despite all her greatness, Mahalia sometimes didn't feel worthy of stages like Carnegie Hall and those jazz festivals. She wanted to stay as a creature of comfort inside the walls or the tents of the Black church. Both of you guys are great. Have you ever, excuse me, because Cicely Tyson says you don't refer to a woman as a guy. Ladies and gentlemen here, both of you all are great. Have you ever felt, you know, or doubted your self-worth or didn't think you were ready for the next level of the elevation like Mahalia did?
Yes, there goes another parallel. Why this was just right for me. Yeah, you know, you mentioned seeing us in Color Purple, which thank you. I'm so glad you got to see that. But once I got Tony nominated, I went downhill because I just did not believe that I was worthy of what I was being given. And I had to go to counseling for it and stuff because I was really struggling with getting on that stage every day without fear because I didn't feel worthy enough. I didn't study vocal, like I didn't have vocal training, wasn't my thing. You know, like I studied acting, you know, so I felt like Mahalia did. I felt like, well, I don't know how to, for her, you know, I'm not an opera singer. I never was trained. I don't know how to read music, same as Dan. I don't know how to read music. So I definitely felt like she has before. And finding ways to triumph above that and come out on the other side of that. And now I feel that way. And again, it wasn't until I got into Much Ado About Nothing where for the first time, even though I was playing a lead, stepping in something I've never done before, I felt so much freedom. I felt so much freedom because of the way in which Kenny had worked, you know, us up to performance level and getting ready for that. I just felt safe and I felt like I could do it. And I felt I was also pregnant. So I felt like I'm having a child. So this ain't that deep. Like, I'm like carrying a baby. So if I mess up a line, it ain't the end of the world. So yeah, I definitely felt like she has before.
That's so interesting. If I were to answer that, I'd say, yes, I felt that way, but especially after last year of what happened to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, I realized that much of that comes from this systemic racism in our country. And I'm reminded of, I worked with the great August Wilson, and he would say that everything you need is in you. And everything that Black folks need is contained in our culture. We have our God, we have our education, we have our food, we have our hair, we have all of that. And so what I've come to understand is just like, it's just many times like when people have opinion or they're judging our work, I realize that's just their opinion. And I'm getting stronger with that and realize that, oh, I didn't get that gig. It had nothing to do with my talent. Had nothing to do with that. And, you know, we've had to behave in certain ways in certain rooms because we're a Black artist and this country who has an interesting history. So yes, but then I realized that, you know what? No, I look up to God and thank God and realize that it's not, you know, it's not me. I have everything I need. And it's like I was talking to my grandson the other day and he's 5. And I realized some of the school systems, they try to mold kids to be all alike. And I'm like, no, I don't want that for him. It's like some kids are big, some kids are small, some kids are quiet, some kids have a stutter. You know, Sam Jackson had a stutter when he was young, but he's one of the greatest actors on the planet. You know what I mean? So I just think that I just want to keep building a world where everybody can be in it and everybody has equal value, regardless of their sexual identity, their size, their race, their culture. So yes, I've been disappointed to not get things that I thought were mine, but now I realize sometimes God is saving you from doing that project that you thought was so great. He's saving, you know, you don't need to have that. I got something for you over here.
For sure.
But good question.
And I love that you mentioned the systemic racism, Kenny, because, you know, Mahalia survived the Jim Crow South, the civil rights movement, segregation. How do both of you all feel that Mahalia would look at modern times and see some of the same things that her and Dr. King and Aretha and all of them were battling, we're seeing here in 2021? What do you think, Mahalia, how will she respond to the parallel times?
Well, I would answer it in one way. It goes back to something my mom said. She said, if you're going to be in entertainment in America, you either got to be a snake or a snake charmer. And I think that as Mahalia is here, she wouldn't be a snake, but she would still be charming her way to what she needed to get accomplished until we live in a more just, righteous world. And we still are way behind in that category. But I think that, I mean, this woman died with $4 million in the bank, came from, you know, humble beginnings. So she would have found a way to get her business going, to get her thing. But it still would have, she still would have spoke out against all this stuff that's happening. And so she wasn't a snake, but I felt like she would have been a snake charmer.
Love that, Danielle.
I think he said it perfectly.
Yeah.
I think he said it perfectly.
And there's a line in the movie that says, how do we hold on to the faith when times are so bad? I think I respond to that line now by saying, charming a few snakes, Kenny. I like that.
Yeah, such good ones, don't
You know what I love so much though? A lot of times when people look at films like this, they said, did the character sing all the songs? I was like, when I look at what Danielle Brooks did with this, it's like, I can 100% say this woman sang the songs, spoke the words, moved the walk. She did it all. And not a lot of actors can do that. They would be like trying to put somebody else's voice in and match it up with their voice. But the fact that Danielle, like she stood in truth with Mahalia in a complete way, all the singing and all of the acting. And I respect her for that.
Kenny, how was it recording that? Because one of the things, you know, I look at art through two lenses now. I'm a consumer first because I love TV, film, and all aspects of the arts. But then being in the industry, sometimes I'm trying to figure out the tricks of the trade. So were some of those scenes, did you actually shoot Danielle singing live in the moment, or was she?
Matthew Head, who's a genius. Matthew Head is our musical director, and you know, like any movie, we have her in the studio at first in the beginning of the process, singing all the songs all the way through. But we know that as we get to know the story and the emotion gets in there, it's like it's gonna be different. You know what I mean? So every time we had a song on set in Carnegie Hall or in the first church she went to or in the tent, we was like, okay, Danielle, we need you to sing this. And every time Danielle, I got no problem. So that means not that she's just singing it one time. She's singing it multiple times, full emotion, full out. So when what you see in that film, you see a person who is singing it on set, singing it live.
That's good. Danielle, what was that like for you to work that way? I mean, I know you come from the theater, so you're used to giving it your all every night, but what was it like to give it your all in multiple takes on the same day?
It was great. I mean, because you continue to go deeper and deeper within the person I'm playing, you know, getting to play Mahalia. I feel like that's what she was doing. You know, when you're doing a 2-hour concert, you gotta sing. So yeah, I was grateful for that opportunity to get to sing the music live too, and not just pre-recorded, because it felt more unique and real to what we were doing.
Also, not to interrupt you, Danielle,
Okay.
but also, John, the first day, it may have been the second day, was the first day that we had to do a scene with singing in it. And we were in this church and we're singing, My God is Real. So Danny is actually singing it, right? And so around us, we got Canadians, we got Jewish people, we got Black people, we got Christians, we got all different kind of people. We got people who've never been to church before. We got camera operators, we got everybody in there. And when she finished that song, I looked over and the focus pull person is crying and everybody else is shouting, people are clapping. I was like, that's a sign there. And spontaneously, everybody just, you know, cried or shouted or clapped. And I was like, okay, Danielle, we got something special, because we didn't ask them to respond to that. We were just doing the scene. And it was a special moment.
If I was one of Mahalia's ex-husbands, Kenny, I'd tell you that's what we call the Holy Spirit. I have to ask you all this. Both of you guys did the deep dive into the Mahalia music, which probably helped manifest this project coming to life. But now that the project is done, what is your favorite Mahalia song? I mean, I know she has a catalog, so there's a whole lot of them, but what is the one that has become like your favorite since wrapping the project?
There's so many, but I think I like singing How I Got Over. How did I make it over? You know, my soul looks back and wonder, how did I make it over? I love singing. Soon as I can see Jesus, the man that died for me, man that bled and suffered. That song to me is probably the most fun to sing. But Come On Children, Elijah Rock, Didn't It Rain was fun to sing in the rain. But I love, just finished listening to the Lord's Prayer. Whew, that one, that's a good one.
Kenny?
Hey, man, I'm still, with her just doing what she just did, I'm like, I'm like, I'm getting ready to cry right now. I'm ready to go, oh, you want to take up some money?
The doors of the church are open, Kenny.
But I would have to say, I love that, but I also love, because of the way we shot the film, the first song in the film is "My God Is Real." And because I see a woman who is like mopping the floor with her hands, get off her knees, walk down the hallway to go and do some more cleaning. And then we cut to her in the church auditioning somewhat for this choir, singing that song. And the camera is moving so slow. So now this is the first time, because in the first scene, we have a little girl, Danielle, Mahalia at 10. And now 10 years later, here she is. So that camera is moving so slow. And I was like, okay, this is an introduction to Danielle Brooks as Mahalia Jackson. And it feels so right and honest. And I'm like, wow, she's singing. She's Mahalia. You know, so that right now, that's my favorite song because it starts us on our journey. But I like everything that she sings in this film.
Kenny, a follow-up question, how challenging or daunting is it to tell such a varied story about an iconic woman in under 2 hours for a TV film? How challenging was that for you?
It was hard. It was hard. And also because we had to make 2 versions of the film. We premiered with a 2.5-hour version. And then later on, there's a 2-hour version. So I had to cut some more, but it ended up being an actual beautiful moment because it's like, you keep cutting, and it's like, it's still beautiful. It's still beautiful. So I think once I thought of this film as a movie about a woman who got knocked down and keeps getting up, I can tell that in an hour. I can tell that in 2 hours. It's just like there can be many versions. There could be many stories about Mahalia Jackson. There could be 20 films about Mahalia Jackson, and it still doesn't bother this story of Mahalia Jackson. But I also can say to you, this probably has been one of the most challenging things I've ever done because of the responsibility that I personally put on myself. So I start thinking about, okay, Danielle's mother, number 1. Then I think about my mother, number 2. Then I start thinking about, oh, I was really good friends with Dr. King's daughter, Yolanda, who passed too soon. So it's like, I want to honor Yolanda King and her father. And so I knew the King family. And being in Atlanta, John Lewis was a friend of mine, and Reverend Joseph Lowry was a friend of mine, and C.T. Vivian. So I feel the responsibility of all those people who came before me, who really knew them. I feel an allegiance to the people at Macedonia Free Will Baptist Church, which is the church I grew up in. I feel like I got to get it right because I am Southern, because I am Christian, because I am male. I feel no matter what anybody says, I feel like I have to honor those people. Those people, they're depending on me to tell this story and to get it right. I don't care, who else says it about it, but that community, I owe it to them to get this story right so that all of them may find themselves in this story.
I hear you. That's a lot of responsibility, but you did it well. Listen, as we're wrapping up, I want to end on a fun note. One of Mahalia's last jobs, so to speak, because she owned the place, was working in a hair salon before she really made it big in music, before music was the thing that paid the bills and allowed her to have $4 million in the bank when she died. I want to know, what was both of you all's last job before making it in the entertainment industry?
I had a lot of odd jobs. I sang in the window at MAC Cosmetics to bring customers in. They would dress us up as little dolls and we would sing these cheesy songs from the 70s. I was a dog walker. I worked at a restaurant and I was a horrible waitress, but I always had a smile. I had a lot of odd jobs. But thank you, Jesus. I made it.
Yes, you
Would he do it?
Willie won't.
Yes, I've been blessed in college to sort of like as an actor to be involved in this business in one way or another. But when I was in high school, I worked in the dietary department of a hospital. So I know everything about food, about, low calorie diets. I know everything about what you should and should not eat. But then the first job, like after college, I had a job as an actor and a teacher, and I did something called People of the Brick, where I recruited homeless people, and I taught them acting skills, and I had a chance to put their stories on stage with the homeless people actually acting in the plays. Wow. So that's one of the things I'm most proud of. But yeah, we all are blessed and lucky to have found our purpose like Mahalia and our passion. And I'm so glad that Danielle found her purpose and passion, because the world would be not as good a place if we didn't have her singing and acting and modeling and being an activist for all kind of women all over our country and world. And I'm just grateful that she's doing it, and I'm glad she's playing the lead in my film. So she makes me better. So thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
I'll amen that. Listen, and I'm also a Good Morning America guy. And so I love Robin Roberts. I know she's a woman of faith and loves gospel music. So I'm so glad that she partnered with Lifetime to help get this story told. And I'm so glad that both of you are part of this historic story of Mahalia Jackson. Thank you for joining this conversation today. Thank you for sharing so much about the journey and making Mahalia and some personal tidbits along the way. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, John, for always being the excellent moderator and facilitator. Kenny, you were the recipient of our Innovator Award last year. So it's so good to see you again.
Yes.
Danielle, your performance is absolutely amazing. And I know that fans are just going to love it. So on behalf of the world's largest group of Black film critics, keep doing what you're doing. And we certainly will keep having your back.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely.